Greetings, everyone. Welcome to the Wednesday, September 3rd, 2014 episode of Free Webinar Wednesdays. This is Eric Cook, and I'm glad to be back at Free Webinar Wednesdays. I'm with WSI Internet Consulting, where we work with businesses and organizations on helping them better understand and leverage the power of the Internet as a strategic business tool. You can learn more about me online at www.poweredbywsi.com or just Google Eric Cook WSI and see what you find. With me this week, like I said, and we are back. It's been a couple of weeks, and is my good friend and Free Webinar Wednesday partner, Mr. Jeff Simpkins. Jeff, say hello to everybody out there in the Free Webinar Wednesday world.
Greetings, everyone. This is Jeff Simpkins. I'm with Community Bank Consulting, Inc. You can learn more about me and Community Bank Consulting, Inc. online at www.communitybankconsulting.com.
Awesome. Welcome to September. We haven't chatted since the last Free Webinar Wednesdays. So September has arrived.
How was Labor Day?
It was Labor Day itself was a little cold and rainy, but we got a couple of decent days in, so it wasn't too bad. Didn't do much laboring on Labor Day, which I think is the whole point, if I'm not mistaken. But it was good, and I debated about taking pictures of my dogs on Tuesday, because in Michigan you're not allowed to send kids back to school until after Labor Day. So pretty much everybody that I know that has children on Facebook has posted the obligatory kids going to school, first day of school, and since our children have 4 legs and fur, I thought I maybe would poke a little fun at that, but I resisted the urge, although it was pretty tempting. So. Yeah, so for all of my Michigan friends, and I guess anybody else that's out there that has kids, hopefully the return to school has created some activities for children that gets them out from being underfoot and involved in homework and some other stuff. So, you know, 'tis that time of year, I guess. So
I think school has been underway for 1 or 2 weeks here.
Yeah. So I don't know whether it's made an impact in Michigan on the tourism, or if it's done what it was intended to do, but we'll see. So anyway, we have been absent for the last couple of weeks, and I know I've been doing some traveling. I was in Madison, Wisconsin at the Graduate School of Banking, and then I spent some time in Illinois for the Illinois Bankers Association, delivering a couple of full-day social media boot camp sessions, talking about things like legal issues and compliance and policy surrounding social media, plus also some strategy. And so a couple of things that we're going to talk about today actually have got some relevance to that, because there were a few things that I talked about that really seemed to resonate with the folks that were in class, particularly on tracking links and seeing what's going on. Of course, everybody was interested in legal and compliance because we're bankers, but you know, that wasn't exactly the fun, sexy stuff. So we'll try to cover some of those things. And then just recently got back from Orlando, Florida, where I participated in the D&H Connections 2014 conference. And so got to go down there and spend some time with those folks and bankers and credit union people from literally all over the country. So it's been busy and no excuses, but that's, I guess, the reason why we've not been able to put a Free Webinar Wednesday together, because I know I've been absent and I know you've been busy as well. So anything new in your world before we go ahead and roll into it and start walking through some of these sites and talking a little bit more about tips and tools?
I'm just chuckling, thinking that you're going to have to get a home in Orlando. You've got lots of Orlando travel this year.
Yeah, me and Mickey are becoming quite the buddies. Although one of the things that I learned, I'm a big Disney buff, but I did not realize that the Dolphin and the Swan are not official Disney properties. They're owned by
those are Westin hotels, or at least they used to be.
Yeah, so that kind of came as a shock because, you know, you've got access to the water taxis and you've got access to the buses and all the other advantages of being on Disney property, but from what I've heard, not necessarily the price tag that goes along with it. So I've said that to a couple people, and they say, yeah, we usually stay there because it's cheaper, but you get all the bennies of staying on a Disney property. So I guess I learned something this week. So You know, it's not too late to learn. Yeah.
You and I haven't laid eyes on each other in a long time, and we're actually going to be at the same conference in Orlando in about 30 days, 32 days, I think.
Exactly. Yeah. So, you know, I don't know if you want to mention anything about that or your involvement. I know you're doing some cool stuff, and maybe the bankers that are on the call may have an interest. I know I'm kind of doing my dog and pony on the kind of the evolution of consumer and digital and kind of how people are shifting their ways of gathering information, which is, I don't want to say the common shtick for me, but it's certainly something that I do quite often. So you're involved in
some kind of cool stuff. Some kind of cool stuff going on with several of the major software vendors in the banking industry. I had a meeting earlier this week with Jack Henry and Associates. Had a couple meetings recently with CSI, the conference that we're going to be at together. All of those companies offer some type of project management services when they're doing either conversions to one or more of their software platforms or migrations from one product to another. The piece that they don't do is they don't really help the banks internally in managing the parts of the process that they're responsible for. And we've been in some really good conversations, like I said, with CSI and Jack Henry and Associates and a couple of the other vendors, and working with them to kind of partner and help the financial institutions, banks, credit unions that they work with in keeping up with the timelines and doing a lot of the day-to-day project management responsibilities that most financial institutions, unless they're huge, just don't have the time to do it, and or they don't have the expertise on staff. So we're really excited about that.
Yep. Yeah, well, that's cool. Well, I guess to take a walk down memory lane and revisit some things, you know, that's kind of what brought you and I together and formed this. Who knew that it would evolve into something like free webinar Wednesdays? But when our bank was acquired and we merged and combined data centers, you know, Jeff was part of the team that came in and helped us really get the most out of those platforms, organize things, and really understand what the system's capabilities were. So I really enjoyed working with you at that point, and I guess that was one of the big reasons when I left banking and you left the data center and we both started our own, it was a logical fit for us to keep connected and to do this. So so not so much of a soft plug. This is a hard plug, but yeah, any banker that's out there that's looking for, you know, assistance in that area, give Jeff definitely high marks, because I really enjoyed his assistance. I know others at the bank did as well, and looks like there's some data centers now that are starting to wake up and smell the Starbucks, if you will. So that's pretty cool. So I'm excited for you.
Thanks.
Yeah. So. Well, I guess let's go ahead and we'll kind of roll back into it. I know when you and I don't have a formal guest, these tend to be a little bit more like a, you know, I said an ad lib or a grab bag. I put a few things together that I know sparked some thought and interest from folks over my travels that people were either surprised, didn't know about, excited to learn about. So we're just going to kind of walk through some of those together. But before we formally get started, I guess maybe some housekeeping, a little bit out of practice here, but housekeeping. Today's webinar, and all webinars are recorded, that is when we have them, and made available at freewebinarwednesdays.com. So we certainly encourage you to go back and listen to past shows, share shows with friends and colleagues. And if you've got a comment or a question and you'd like to interact with us, because even though it's Jeff and me just kind of doing our thing, we'd love to hear feedback, especially when we start getting into some of the tools, if you've got experience with them, or if there's some other tools that you've used that have helped you within your social or business or digital efforts. Definitely share those in the question and answer chat feature, and we'll keep an eye on those, and would love to hear from you. So before I officially get started, I just want to put a quick plug in. It went back maybe a year or so ago, but we welcomed Pat Tulungan from the Children's Neuroblastoma Cancer Foundation to the show to talk about childhood cancer and the fundraising effort that I had started thanks to my involvement with a little girl by the name of Christy Thomas. And I just wanted to do a little public service announcer shout out. This is Pedaling with a Purpose, which is a site that I created back in '06 to help banks. I keep having banks on the mind. Bikers, cyclists, pedal bicycle people raise money for charities. And if you go to pedalingwithapurpose.org, I'm really excited this year that our cycling team has got a bunch of our racers that are participating in events to raise money for charities that they're passionate about. And mine is right here. I'm going to be heading to Cedar Point this weekend, and I'm going to be racing is what's known in the aqua bike category. It's a triathlon without running because I dislocated my knee earlier this year training. So I'm not really up for 13-mile half marathon. But if you click on that, you'll be taken to my donation page. And if you would like to support my fight against neuroblastoma and child cancer, September actually is Child Cancer Awareness Month. This is a picture of Christy and me back in '05 at Cedar Point riding rides. Not very many people enjoyed riding rides as much as I did with her. A lot of her family, her mom and dad and little sister, rides kind of made them a little sick and they had cozy stomachs, but I got into it. So Christy and I pretty much rode every ride that she could get on at Cedar Point, and so racing there has got kind of a double meaning for me. So I'm racing to keep Christy's spirit alive, and every little bit helps. So if you're able to make a donation, you can go ahead and hop on here and pick a dollar amount and send it along, and the money goes right to the CNCF. I'm not making any profit off of this. This is going right to the Neuroblastoma Foundation. So little public service announcement, but certainly would love to get your support and come along with me if you would. So that would be great. So there. Yeah, it's awesome. She she had an amazing smile. She had an amazing little giggle. Even right up until the end, she just was just bustling a personality, and it's just it's great to see a photo of her, but I just can't imagine the fact that she's gone. So, and her younger sister is now a sophomore in high school and turning into just an amazing young lady. And I'm going to get to see Shayla this weekend cheer at a football game in Ohio because I'm going in a little early, and spend some time with the family. And Christy's father is actually doing the sprint triathlon on Saturday, and I'm doing the aqua bike on Sunday. So it'll be a special weekend. Shane and I always have a good time when we get together, but kind of hear Christy behind the scenes and all the rides that we do. So it'll be cool. So if you'd like to support, that's how you can do it. So there you go. In the write-up, one of the things that I wanted to talk about, because I don't think a lot of people realize it, but there are services out there that you probably have noticed that shorten URLs. And Bitly is probably one of the more popular ones. I know Google shortens URLs. TinyURL was one of the ones. Even if you post something like in a service called Hootsuite, you get like an Owly, OW.ly link. And so the intent, if you're not familiar with these shortened link services, is it takes a really long link and basically whacks it down to a really, really small hyperlink that you can easily post in a tweet or include in an email. And since you've only got 140 characters in Twitter, the shorter the link, the better. Well, one of the things people didn't realize, particularly when we talk about Bitly, because we got into this from a social media perspective, on the concept of tracking and measuring your return on engagement or return on influence, and to see, well, who's clicking on links, people actually looking at things. And a lot of people use Bitly, but they don't have an account, and they didn't realize that you can actually sign up for a free account with Bitly. And so I've done that. You can see I'm logged in as my Eric Cook account. And when you create a hyperlink now with an account, you can actually go back and track the activity of that. So as you're providing hyperlinks to different resources, you can go back and see whether or not those are actually getting clicked on and where they're getting clicked on from. So the example that I wanted to share with everybody is last year WSI produced a book called Digital Minds, and if you go into Amazon and you do a search for digital marketing, it's the #1 rated book on Amazon right now for digital marketing. But I created a hyperlink that goes directly to Amazon's Kindle store so that you can download the Kindle version of our book for free. So if and the website address that I did was bit.ly/WSI-book. So if I go in and I take a look at this WSI-book, it comes up and it shows how many clicks I've had since I created it, and I can go in and I can actually take a look at the statistics. There you can see the actual URL, so if I wanted to copy it, I could click right there and it copies it, and I could paste it into an email or a tweet. But if I go into the statistics, this is where everybody that was in the class with me just kind of went, wow, we had no idea this could do this. You can click on it, and this shows you the long hyperlink that it's actually using. So when you go to bit.ly/WSI-book, it's actually going to Amazon, Digital Minds Business Marketing ebook, DP, blah, 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 which, you know, goes on and on and on forever, which is not something that you'd want to stick in a tweet. But I've got this in the signature on my email. I'll frequently send it out as part of social media. And this gives you all these statistics that you can go, and so I can go back and I can see, well, you know, if I went to a conference and I had this link or maybe other links included as part of my slide deck, or I sent a follow-up email to people that were there and said, hey, don't forget to download a free version of the Kindle book, you can see that all of this information is basically available, and it shows you where the clicks are coming from, and tells you, you know, which countries they're coming from. It tells you where they're being actually shared. Just a tremendous amount of free information that you're able to glean to see exactly where all this information is coming from. So you can see a majority of the people that are clicking the link are from the United States, but I got a few people in the UK and Canada, and then it kind of tails off after that into other areas. So that's, I guess, one of the ways, because I know everybody always wants to try to see, well, you know, when I share something, what's engaging, what's there, and so, you know, we've got a bit.ly link that we use for registrations for free webinar Wednesdays, for example. If we do a webinar for WSI, I typically will shorten that into a bit.ly link, and I'll include that so I can track. So it's a great way of really analyzing and understanding what people are doing with the links and the information that you're sharing. So, Jeff, I don't know if I've ever kind of gone into this with you, or if you're using kind of a registered version, I don't want to say paid, but a registered version of bit.ly or some other link shortener, but now that you've been able to peek back behind the curtain a little bit, any thoughts on this?
This is cool. I actually don't tend to use these URL shortening services. A lot of folks that I do reposts for on Twitter, of course, will write blog posts and use bit.ly or a similar service. But I'll have to share that with some of my buddies that use these types of services a lot.
Yeah. So you can see there's a few that I've gone in. So you can just do a search, and you can actually sort down some statistics of the webinar registrations. So, for example, we're doing a social relationship webinar for WSI later this month, and I've sent that out just yesterday. It's actually in the footer of my email, and I've already gotten 2 clicks and folks that have gone through and actually registered. The registration for our email webinar that we did got 87 clicks. So it's just kind of cool to be able to see kind of what's going on behind the scenes and know if you're sharing something that nobody really cares about, or if you're sharing something that people are actually engaged with and even sharing amongst themselves. So some cool stuff. The other, I guess, free tool, and a lot of these tools have premium versions associated with them, so if you want to go a little bit deeper, you can pay a monthly subscription. But another free tool that I really like is one called the Google URL Builder. And so I've created a bit.ly link, which by chance is bit.ly/G for Google, U for URL, B for Builder. And you can see actually a bit.ly link in action where it's actually redirecting to support@google.com, analytics, answer, blah, blah, blah. So again, not something that you'd really want to put in a link on an email or in a presentation, but GUB for Google URL Builder is easy to remember. For those of us that subscribe to email newsletters, you probably have clicked on a link in a newsletter that's taking you out to a website. And if you've ever taken a look at the URL that shows up in the address bar, you'll notice that it likely will end with, you know, blah, blah, blah.com, and then it'll have a question mark. And then it'll say something like UTM source or content equals and a bunch of other gobbledygook that you may or may not know what is there, what it's there for. But what's happening essentially is services like Constant Contact and MailChimp and Aweber and Vertical Response and others will automatically append this information to help track who's clicking links in emails. So if you're using one of those services, and we've had Constant Contact on several times as a guest and talked about email marketing, it's one of the big advantages of doing that is you can actually see who is clicking on those links and how many of those links are being clicked on. But if you wanted to do that in just the general course of business, I know we talk a lot with banks, and they will oftentimes do advertising with either the local newspaper or the local radio station and support an event, or maybe they'll sponsor the high school sports section on the website, and they'll do it with like a banner advertisement link. Well, while the advertising entity, whether it's the newspaper or the radio station or whoever, will provide statistics, one of the things that our clients are doing is they're actually creating their own URL that they can use for tracking. So to do that, you just enter in the information in this URL builder. So I'm just going to go ahead and we're going to just do a bank. We'll do http://bank.com/mortgage. Let's say the bank is trying to drive people to a page about mortgage loans. We can see that this is coming from a radio station. Spell it right. And maybe it's a banner. And we can skip term because we're not really paying for that on a paid search, but if you're doing pay-per-click. Campaign content, for example, this could be picket fence. Maybe we've got a picket fence. Another version of the advertisement might maybe have happy family on a porch swing, and then this is mortgage loans. So now what happens is you've got this banner advertisement that you've done. It's bringing people, you want to have them come back to your mortgage loan page or whatever URL you want. You can click on submit, and what happens here is you've got the ability to then create this link that you send over, and you can send that directly to the radio station and have that be the click-through. And then what happens is when somebody clicks on it, they still get directed to the mortgage page, but now what you're able to do as the owner of that page is have your Google Analytics actually look and see what campaigns are getting more activity than others, and you can go back in at the end of that advertising period, and you can see just exactly how many clicks came to your website as a result of that banner advertisement over on the radio station. And if you had a picket fence version and a happy family on a porch swing version, you could even do your own A/B testing to determine which one of those banners actually got a better pull. Because as we all know, John Wanamaker was the famous retailer that had the quote that said, 50% of my advertising is wasted, I just don't know which 50% it is. And this gives you the ability to run some of those tests to determine whether or not certain campaigns, certain images, certain messages are having better click activity than others. And again, it's free of charge, doesn't cost anything. You just have to have a little forethought, maybe put a spreadsheet together with some of this kind of laid out so that as you start putting these things into different areas for your business, you know where they're coming from. And as you go back into your Google Analytics and you start reviewing, you can actually see, is the radio station giving you better business or better traffic than the newspaper or Facebook? So now you can really start refining your digital marketing practices to understand what is and isn't working. And then you obviously are going to shift your budget to the stuff that's working well because you're getting a better return on it. So a little bit more involved than the Bitly example that I gave you, but still I think kind of a cool example of how you can track. And if you're lucky, you're going to get into Google Analytics and see some spikes and some activity, and it'll definitely justify your involvement in any of those areas. So, so I'm going to go ahead and pause again, and I'll ask my good buddy Jeff to interject with any thoughts or comments and see what you think.
That's a really cool thing. I can see how that would be really useful information. Kind of makes me think of, we've talked about the phone systems we use. You're using UMA, I'm using Ring Central, and one of the new features that's come into RingCentral in the last month or so as part of their standard package is a dashboard that breaks out all of your phone numbers and tells you pretty detailed information about all of your calling. So using RingCentral as an example, you could actually, if you wanted to have a special phone number, which is $60 a year, $4.99 a month on RingCentral, you could actually do the same type of thing with a telephone number, as long as you were okay with using a unique phone number for a campaign.
Yeah. Very cool. Yeah, I mean, that's, you know, and you could then use that phone number. I know a lot of businesses, and this whole concept of being able to track a specific activity, I think started even well before the internet really made it easy and possible. I know some businesses that were using call forwarding or a unique number in their Yellow Page advertisements to determine whether or not people were actually calling them from the Yellow Pages or if they were just using the general number that was in the White Pages as their general business listing. So they would put a special toll-free number in their Yellow Page listing, and then at the end of their 12-month agreement, their Yellow Page rep would show up and say, hey, how about re-upping that nice half-page $1,500 Yellow Page ad that we'd love to sell you again, and you can go to your phone records and see that that number got called like 4 times. And so it made that decision very easy to say, you know, we love you, but yeah, we're probably just going to stick with the White Pages for now. Nobody seems to be making a phone call on that. So
makes a lot of sense based on how expensive Yellow Page advertising used to be.
Yeah, yeah.
And apparently you know, there are people that still buy Yellow Page advertising. I'm not sure why, because if many people are like me, my Yellow Pages has been known to lay on the driveway for weeks at a time in the plastic bag before I bother to go out and pick it up.
Yeah, and my suspicion is when you pick it up, it kind of goes right into the circular file. So
it goes directly to the recycle bin.
Exactly. So used to be able to say it was a booster seat, but you know, everybody that we have in the family, nieces and nephews, are big enough where they don't need booster seats anymore. So that kind of negates any functionality that we used to get out of the Yellow Pages. So, but I've noticed that they're not necessarily getting much skinnier. So I don't know if they're just printing on thicker paper or what the deal is. But yeah, they can continue. So. We got a couple of questions
that asked
in the
you
chat
to
box.
repeat the name of the Google service.
Yeah, so it's called the Google URL Builder. You can do a Google search for that, but the easiest way is if you go to bit.ly, which is the URL shortener that we just talked about, and you type in G for Google -U for URL /B for Builder, that'll automatically redirect you to the support page, and it'll take you right here. So you can go ahead and dump that in, and there's a URL builder tool, some other little features. I think Chrome has a little plugin that you can use, so as you're kind of on the fly, you can create those. I tend to just go back to this GUB link, pull it up, but you know, I think it's kind of funny. I think we shared over a full day, and I actually co-presented with Deborah Gonzalez, who's been a guest on Free Webinar Wednesdays before. She's the co-creator of Socially Legal Audit, which is one of the first, if not still only, legal and compliance efforts designed to help, you know, address those issues as it relates specifically to social media. We shared a ton of great information, and certainly no discredit to Deborah or the information that she shared, but I had an opportunity to take a peek at some of the review articles or the reviews that got put out by the attendees before they went back to the association, and there were several people that indicated that the bit.ly and the URL building, you know, were things that they were going to take back to their bank and implement like right away, because it gave them the ability to, you know, start tracking and measuring, even though a lot of other stuff I think really was valuable. I think every business, whether you're a bank or others, likely has some sort of banner display, maybe a link in your email that you're sending out, you know, something along those lines that it would be nice know whether anybody's clicking on it or taking a look at it. And so being able to use either one of these really gives you that capability. So kind of cool. It looks like my friend Gunnar has also asked a question, and this may be a good topic actually for maybe even next week's webinar. But Gunnar says, as you think about many of your webinars, do you have a top 3 that come to mind? And if so, what was it about them that make them so memorable? That's an awesome question, Gunnar.
I love that question. What was your favorite, Eric?
You know,
not
I would have
favorite.
to go back.
Most memorable.
Yeah, well, I know my most memorable, but that shall remain nameless. I know exactly where you're going with that, Jeff. So my mother said, if you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all. Yeah.
No, we're just
too bad we don't have the web.
It can remain nameless.
We don't have
honestly,
the webcams.
I don't remember the name, but we had a guest one time that took 35 minutes introducing themselves.
Yeah, that was.
So that would follow
that
the most memorable.
Exactly. It wouldn't make my top 3, Gunnar, but that would be most memorable. So I was just saying, it's too bad we don't have the webcams enabled, because then our audience could actually see Jeff probably tearing up from laughter right now, because I suspect you probably have got tears rolling down your face, because we've had many a conversation about that incident. But in all seriousness, I think that might be kind of a nice one. I know, and I keep forgetting the actual launch date of Free Webinar Wednesdays. I think we're going on almost 4 years now, if I'm not mistaken. And so
I
we've
would
had
guess longer than that, because I started community bank consulting in 2008, and I don't remember it being all that long after I started this company.
Yeah,
we'll have to do
maybe
some research, I guess. We can go back and look at the oldest posting on freewebinarwednesdays.com.
Yeah, maybe we will do that. I believe I remember. All I can remember is his mother was Betty from the Flintstones.
Oh, that's Roger DeWitt.
Roger DeWitt. I think he was our very first guest.
And actually, she was Wilma Flintstone.
Or was she
His mother
Wilma?
was the voice
she
of
was
Wilma Flintstone.
Voice of Wilma Flintstone. See, so I remember that. So we'll have to go back and we'll check when we posted Roger's post, and I think rather than just kind of off the cuff, and even if we narrowed it down to just the past year, let's take some time, and that might be. I think we've got a topic for next week, Jeff. So maybe you'll have to do a little research, and we'll both come back with our 3s, and we'll list them up and talk about them, and we'll take another little stroll down memory lane. That'll be kind of fun, and I'm sure we'll take a look at what was said. And since we talk a lot about social media and digital, it'll be also interesting to see if this has been going on 4, 5, 6 years. It'll be interesting to see what exactly we were talking about 4, 5, 6 years ago, and if we were on target or way off. So it might be kind of a fun little fact checking exercise as well. So that'll be kind of cool. Thank you for the suggestion, Gunnar. Good comments. So. One of the other tools, as I just kind of plow through my list of things that you can use to help check engagement, is a tool called TweetReach. And what I like about TweetReach, we're all familiar with these things called hashtags. And if anybody has come up with a very simple, easy definition of a hashtag, please email it to me, because I'm still trying to figure out a way to explain it to my lovely wife so that she gets what a hashtag is. I know what it is, but I can't explain it very well. So it's kind of interesting. But hashtags
like a label on a file folder.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of it. And if you look at Twitter or anything else, it's just a gigantic drawer of file folders with content in it. If you put a label on it, that makes things a little bit easier to find. So
a file folder that you can put as many labels on as you want.
Yeah, there you go. So so we're getting the question, what is a hashtag? So I will further refine that. So let me go in. I'm going to hop over to Twitter. And one of the things that Twitter is doing now is the hashtag is any term that you put after the pound sign. So pre-internet, we all knew, the hashtag as being a pound sign. And, of course, don't you love it? So, all right, well, let's see if I remember what my Twitter password is. Hold on just a second.
One of the things you'll notice about hashtags of late is that many companies, well, especially entertainment companies, like movie companies, HBO, Showtime, TV shows, will publish hashtags that they are trying to get folks to use because they want to influence the trending that appears on sites like Twitter of their the hashtags they're promoting.
Yep.
Mr. Cook,
Exactly.
take it away.
Yeah, so here's an example of one actually for a hashtag, and this is my stream. Chris and I somehow are connected, but he's got a post here about a hotel. There's a video, because you can see it's coming from YouTube, and YouTube has actually shortened the URL, so it's not youtube.com/video/blah, blah, blah. So they're doing something similar to what Bitly's doing. But you can see that he's mentioning another individual, the 24K Media, and then he's using the Vegas hashtag. And so what he's done here is he said this tweet is about Vegas. And so as a Vegas hashtag goes, what you can do is you can click on that, and that gives you the ability within Twitter to go through and actually see, well, who else is talking about Vegas? So you can click on the hashtag, and this is where I think Jeff's definition from a label on a file folder comes in great, because that tweet could actually have had multiple different hashtags on it. It could have had a hashtag for video. It could have had a hashtag for hotel because it had a video in it and it was talking about a hotel. But now you can see that all of these have got the Vegas hashtag associated with them. So now I want to learn more about Vegas. I can go through and I can actually see. Now this one's got vampires in Vegas, so if I wanted to take a look at vampires, very easy to go after the whole, ADD squirrel, once you get into a hashtag, you never know where it's going to take you. But hopefully that kind of sets up a little bit more about the concept of the hashtag from a categorization perspective. And as Jeff said, a lot of...
Great question
yeah,
in the
that's
box.
good.
Do businesses create hashtags? Or are they owned by Twitter? So here's a chance for you to teach us, Eric.
Yes. So the hashtag is not something that was created by Twitter, as a matter of fact. A little side note here. A hashtag was created actually by users of Twitter to help them better categorize things. And they picked the hashtag because it was a character that doesn't normally end up as part of any sort of a tweet. So when you see a hashtag show up, it kind of gave you the ability where if I put hashtag Vegas, people probably aren't typing that in unless they specifically want to create that. And so the hashtag is something that you have total control over, and you can add it, you can create it. The thing that I encourage anybody that's doing a hashtag to do is to make sure that when you create a hashtag, and by creating it, you basically just put a tweet out and put the hashtag with it. Or if you're doing an event, like a golf outing or community night or the local fair, you can put that in your publication. You can put that in your promotional material. You can stick it in your email signature. Much like Jeff said, a lot of the media and TV and movie companies are starting to use those hashtags. So as you're talking about movies and television shows, you can put the hashtag, and then that helps people follow the conversation and get more information. But what you want to be very careful to do is when you pick a hashtag, you want to pick one that you don't see as in circulation. So for example, if I did, maybe I was doing something for, I guess Free Webinar Wednesdays, then what I would first want to do is I would want to go out and I would see, is anybody using the FWW hashtag right now? Because maybe I would like it to be Free Webinar Wednesdays, but if I go here, you can see there's a lot of people that are already using FWW, and they have a variety of different meanings. So if I wanted somebody to really engage and use the hashtag for Free Webinar Wednesdays, FWW may not necessarily be the right hashtag because it would get confused with a lot of the other stuff that goes on. But what I could do is I could do FWW-webinars, and nobody's using that hashtag right now. So if I were to do a tweet and I would use that, now this is a little bit long for a hashtag, ideally you'd want something shorter, but maybe FWW 2014. I could go ahead and put that in there. Now there's a gentleman out there who has apparently, got that as a Twitter handle. But so, as you can see, you want to pick something that's going to be somewhat unique. The example that I have fired up in my tweet reach, which is again a free service that you can use, is the conference that I was at this past week was sponsored by D&H, and they're one of the big data center companies here in the States for banking, but they had their Connections conference. So they created and promoted and encouraged, are you there?
Yeah, that's spelled D+H.
Yes, D+H. But they created a hashtag and promoted it and said, if you're going to be tweeting or talking in social media about the conference, we want you to use #Connections 14. And so from Twitter directly, you can actually go in, and if I were curious, and this is where the hashtag gives you a little bit more power. So, let's say you were a D&H customer and you're using some of their software, but you were not able to get to their conference. So you couldn't attend, but you were curious to see what people were talking about, what presentations, excuse me, what presentations were resonating, what vendors maybe were there. You could go into Twitter and you could do a search for #Connections 14 because you would have seen that on the promotional material that D&H put out about the event. And you could go through and you could actually see some of the conversations. So OnBase was a vendor that was there. Did we miss you at Connections 14? Chris Fleischer, who's a good friend of mine that works at D&H, he did a lot of tweeting. Gizio was there. So you can see here's the D&H corporate talking about Connections. So this is a great way of getting a feed of things, and as you kind of go through and take a look, you can check on different pictures, if people are sharing information or links to seminar information or PowerPoints or other sorts of things that they've learned in all the different breakout sessions. You've got a great way of kind of gathering all of that. So even though you couldn't be at the event, you can benefit from the Twitter conversation stream as a result of the hashtag. But one of the things that you probably will notice is making sense of all of this is a little bit cumbersome because you kind of have to, scroll down through everything and look at stuff. So there's a service out there called Tweet Reach. And for free, again, you can go pro and get more, but for free, you can actually go in and you can enter hashtags and create reports. And it'll go back and it'll capture for the free account the last 50 conversations that were related to any hashtag that you put in the system. So if I go into the Connections, I ran a report right after I finished and I had to head back. So I've gone in and as of August 27th, I ran a report for Connections 14 and it went back and took a look. And this is nice because again, if your institution or your business or organization wants to promote something, you first find a hashtag that's going to be unique because again, if we did Vegas, this would be all over the board. But Connections 14 was something that was relatively unique to only the folks at D&H for their event. So we're not getting a lot of contamination from other people using the same hashtag like we would have if it were FWW. But now you can see based on that hashtag how many Twitter accounts were reached as a result of people tweeting, the number of impressions that people had, how many tweets were actually, sent out, and the number of contributors, the number of hours that were spent. And you can go down through here and you can see, no surprise that, D&H got quite a few of the contributions and Gizio was there. But you can also scroll down and just as luck would have it, voila, here's myself. But remember I mentioned Chris Fleischer. he gave me a little shout out that said thanks to Eric Cook for participating in our connections this year. So I acknowledged that and said, hey, thanks. So this Tweet Reach program actually organizes things for you very nicely. And so there's a few things to learn on this. So if you're D&H as the conference organizer, you are going to be interested in what people are saying about you. And you may not have had an opportunity to catch all of these throughout the day because they're going, but now you can come in after the event is over, you can run one of these reports, and you can digest it. So if you're spearheading a community event or you've got an activity that is going on at your business that gives you the ability to see who was there, what they thought was important, what kind of resonated with them. The other thing that I really like about Tweet Reach is it shows you the contributors and their influence. And so these folks right here, they only tweeted 4 times, but they got over 10,000 impressions. So as you think about this, you know, these folks would be people that if I were D&H, if I had a tweet that I would want to maybe get spread around, you know, in the olden days, this is the person that lives in town that likes to gossip and she knows everybody or he knows everybody. This is the person that you would want to pick up on a tweet and retweet it because they've got a lot of social influence. They're connected to a lot of people. So you can see that the number of tweets and the number of impressions, Complete Data did an awful lot of tweeting, as you can see with their logo here, but they generated 2,600. I tweeted 3 times and almost got as many impressions as them. So it's not to say one's worse or better, but now you can actually see the level of involvement. So maybe Complete Data would be somebody D&H would want to say, hey, you guys seem pretty excited to be part of our event, you know, and have a conversation. Whereas these folks, you'd want to maybe leverage their influence to a different level. So now this kind of takes the analytics portion really to the next level by understanding what's going on. So if we go back here, for example, and we just run the Vegas, we just put in the hashtag with Vegas and we click go, Tweet Reach goes out much like we did with that Twitter search, but now it's gathering the last 50 posts with the Twitter hashtag included, and we'll probably see that one that had the YouTube video embedded in it because that was one of the more recent ones. But now you can see, you know, the last 50 of almost 1,500 tweets, the reach that they've been doing. So if there were a big event going on in Las Vegas, or the heat came, or, you know, God forbid something bad happened, you could actually track and see if activity's up or down. So this is kind of an interesting way of really monitoring and seeing what the social world is talking about. And if you're not able to attend an event or you see something out there like a TV show or whatnot that has a hashtag associated with it, you can go ahead and use a service like Tweet Reach just to get an idea of, you know, what people are talking about. If you missed the last episode, you know, my wife and I, when it was running, we're waiting for it to come back, really liked the show Scandal. And so, you know, if somebody really is into all the different twists and turns and scandal and they're tweeting and you can tell that they really know what's going on, then maybe somebody that you'd want to follow and maybe engage with them, ask them questions, and they can help kind of keep up on, you know, what Huck's doing and what Olivia's father's up to and all the other things that go on in the show. So I'm going to hit the pause button because I've been talking quite a bit, but yeah.
We had a question come in that says, should you create a hashtag for your business name, or is your business Twitter account enough? The answer to that is, think of your business Twitter account as like the filing cabinet, and think of the hashtags as the folders within the cabinet. So, and I happen to know this comes from a bank, so if your bank is XYZ Bank, your Twitter handle at XYZ Bank, as an example, would be like the filing cabinet. And then if you were promoting an event, let's say you had a small business marketing seminar that you were promoting in a community, to follow Eric's guidance, you would choose a hashtag that is unique, yet short enough that it's not hard to remember or hard to type, and that would be how you would track the activity for the specific event.
So you would do something like this, and that's an awesome analogy, and I think I just found the perfect way to explain it to my wife. So Jeff, if you were sitting here, I'd give you a big fat high five. So thank you very much.
You're welcome.
But yeah, so let's say instead of Eric Cook, it's XYZ Bank, and a lot of times if you can use the initials of your organization, and we'll just use XYZ, but it might be FMB or LMNOP, whatever the case is, and then maybe give it kind of a brief event. So you could do Biz 14. So maybe you're doing XYZ Bank Small Business 2014 Symposium. So you could shorten that to say, don't forget to join us for # XYZ Biz 14. You could put a hyperlink back to your bank's page that has the registration information, which you would bit.ly link, of course. So those are different things that you could actually do, and then you can always search based off of what your bank Twitter account is doing, but then that gives you the ability to actually track into the hashtag and see what other people beyond your organization are talking about. Which leads me to another thing back on bit.ly. I was giving you examples of the WSI-book, for example. And I want to show you how you can customize that, because one of the things that we talked about when Deborah and I did our social media summit is the risk of a bit.ly link from a compliance or security perspective is you don't really know what's behind that link. And so, while you trust that that's going to link you to something that is legitimate, there is the ability for bad people to put some sort of a malicious link behind that links to something. And not to say that they wouldn't do this as well, but a majority of those would be done more on an automated basis. If we go in, and I'm just going to use this article because if we have time, we'll talk a little bit, although it doesn't look like we'll have time because we're almost right at the end. I'm going to use this Dropbox link that talks about Dropbox really blowing out its storage and making a terabyte available for $10 a month, which is awesome. I'm going to go in and yeah, so I'm going to go in and I'm going to take that link and I'm going to paste it here. And so by default, what happens is bit.ly comes back and it gives me a shortened 1NX5HSM. Now, sucks. If I wanted to, yeah, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It doesn't reinforce anything. If I wanted to customize that, I can go into the customize area. I could go in and I could say FWW for free webinar Wednesdays dash Dropbox 10 for $10 a month. And then I could click on save. Now that has to be a unique link in order for me to be able to go ahead and do it. Because if somebody else, if I just did bit.ly/Dropbox, chances are somebody already has that. So this has to be a unique link. But now this is FWW Dropbox 10. So if I go in and I copy that, and then I go back and I actually create a new, and I type in this bit.ly FWW Dropbox 10, you can see that it redirects me to the TechCrunch article talking about a terabyte of space for $10 a month. And if I go back here and I take a look, now I don't know whether or not it's going to give me any of that information from a statistical perspective quite yet. But if I go in and do a search for Dropbox and take a look at stats, yep, you can see I've got one click so far. And that's me. And I've been able to brand it with the FWW so that there's a little, so again, using the XYZ Bank, you could do XYZ dash privacy policy. So if you wanted to create a shortened link for somebody to download the copy of your privacy policy or your terms and conditions if you're an online retailer or something along those lines, you can create shortened links for those as well. So,
so we've got about 4 minutes left. Will you take just a moment and go over and give a very brief description of trending on Twitter tied in with the hashtags?
Yep. So if we go back into Twitter, trends. So this is, Twitter keeping an eye on terms, and a lot of these end up being hashtags related to tweets that they're seeing more often than others. So, when there was, big goings on in Egypt a few years back, you saw a lot of trending things in Egypt. Now that there's, schools back in session, you probably had a lot of back to school photo trending yesterday. So each one of these can give you, some information. And if you see like Packers send off, for example, my suspicion is this is going to take us to something over in the Green Bay area. So you can see that they're off to Seattle. Can't wait until tomorrow. I could take that hashtag. I could copy it. I could go back up into my TweetReach account if I wanted to get just a snapshot of the last 50. But Twitter is actually keeping tabs on things that more and more people are interested in and talking about. You can see that they're also providing an opportunity for businesses, in this case it's CVS Pharmacy, actually promoting. I've seen their television commercial talking about One Good Reason, and from a health and fitness and a wellness perspective, they're trying to promote the One Good Reason hashtag as part of their promotion to get people talking about it. So they're actually paying to have their hashtag put in the trending area in Twitter, so that people will take a look at it and see what people are talking about. So so that kind of gives you an idea. So if we go back and we take a look, obviously this is getting a little bit of chatter. We're at 658,000 accounts reached and over 740 different impressions. And you can go down here, and no surprise that the Packers really are kind of kicking butt when it comes to actually dominating the conversation. But, you've got this RJ Real 666, you've got Callie, you've got Prima, you've got, these are some people that have got some pretty decent, visibility. It kind of drops off under here, but you can see who's talking about it. And if you're a Packers fan, this may be a way for you to find other Packers fans that you'd want to follow and engage and maybe strike up an online conversation with. So, good point. All righty. We always worry about, are we going to have enough to talk about, and we never have enough time. So we've got at least good stuff for the next couple of shows, because I didn't even get a chance to talk about Google and some of the shifts. They've renamed their Google apps for business/enterprise. We'll leave that as a teaser. I know we also wanted to talk about
storage wars.
Yeah, I think Storage Wars is great for everybody. I know, Jeff, you and I both use a variety of different storage platforms. And then, I do like Gunner's idea, and maybe go back and see what other episodes might be worth re-mentioning, and do a little old home week. So, so with that, I think we are right at the 2 p.m. Eastern time, and we've filled 60 minutes very quickly. Holy smokes. Time flies, man. So thanks for everybody that asked questions and engaged with us and challenged and kind of clarified. I think that was helpful. Thanks for the suggestions. And we'll be back next week, kind of, I guess, maybe round 2, a continuation of this. Put your thinking hats on, and if there's anything else that you've got questions on or wondering, certainly send those over to us. Be sure to follow us on Facebook. Facebook.com/Free Webinar Wednesdays. You should be getting the email updates, and we'll get the recording for today's session online here very shortly, and look forward to seeing you next week and every week that we're around at freewebinarwednesdays.com. Until then, have a great week, everyone. Bye-bye.